Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute. Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Our guest is Michelle Greco, the founder and president of Ancient Essence, a frankincense and myrrh company. And Michelle Greco, who's been a guest many times on my show, is one of the people that has made frankincense and myrrh popular again. Of course, it was popular 2,000 years ago, and it is popular again. Michelle, hello. Good morning.
Hi, Josh. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you for being a guest today on my show, Here's to Your Health. And now, I just mentioned to the audience that frankincense and myrrh have become popular again, and they've been popular for a very long time, but now the natural foods community has made them more popular. But for those who are unfamiliar with what they do, what does frankincense and what does myrrh do for us?
Okay, Josh, let me do a little explaining. There are so many areas where it's so helpful. So I thank you so much for, saying that I was instrumental in bringing it back. But I want to tell you there's a lot more famous people than myself, such as Dr. Oz, who did a whole show on frankincense alone, and then another day he did a whole show on myrrh because they're just so beneficial. And, every time that you and I talk, Josh, I start scrambling on the Internet and start looking for the latest research, and I'm always so shocked at what I learn. There's just so many things, more and more all the time. Seems like in December of 2012, there was an article that was written about how it's helping breast cancer patients now. And they can take a 10% solution of frankincense with another oil, like a carrier oil, and use it as a massage lotion. And the women that were using it topically 1 to 3 times a day were getting such a wonderful response from their doctors.
Wow.
So they're improving, yeah. And another area that's a real difficult one was pancreatic cancer. They saw a huge improvement with pancreatic cancer.
Michelle, I have a question for you. On the breast cancer study, was that done here in the United States?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find out what article that was. I think it was called biomedical.com was the one who did that report. And
while you're pulling that up, what exactly is frankincense? Let's start there for our new listeners.
Okay. Frankincense is a resin from a tree. The tree is called Boswellia catteri or Boswellia serrata. There are several different species of the Boswellia frankincense. But it seems like they're getting these results with, doesn't matter what kind that they're using, they're finding out that they still get a really good results with frankincense. Mm-hmm. And also, it might be a good idea to let people know, a lot of people might be familiar with frankincense from church and burning it with religious connotations. And so it's important to note that a lot of research was recently done with the frankincense aroma, and the reason why it works so well is it's an antidepressant. And anti-anxiety natural medication for that. So it's now coming to surface that these are some of the uses that it's been used for throughout history, but we never knew why it was used in these large concentrations of people. And so it had a great results being used in large groups of people. Everybody would feel really good. Being in the smell, around the smell of the frankincense, that made them feel really good when they smell it, and it works for all kinds of forms of depression, seems, and other disorders of the mind, anxiety, and those kind of things.
Wow. Wow. And
so as
yeah.
what the frankincense is, yeah. So it's a resin from the tree, and what happens is the trees, the little incisions are made into the bark of the tree using a small tool called a mingaff. And then, depending on the rainy season, it could take anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, and sometimes more, before these resins are harvested from the tree.
And the resin is a kind of a gum-like substance. Is that what's used? Is that actually frankincense?
Yes, that's it. That's the part that's used. And then that gum-like substance is then distilled into the oil.
And the oil is used. Is it also largely used, or it is also used topically, and it improves the quality of the skin?
Yes, it does. It happens to have some great anti-aging properties for the skin, and so it can be used topically. And also, in the article, it spoke about how the women for breast cancer were applying it diluted with other oil, but they were applying it to the breast tissue. So it can be used topically, but there are other reports where people are taking it internally, but I don't have any FDA approval to tell people to take it internally. But I know there has been a lot of study done with people taking it internally, and it happens to have some great results with that too.
And your company, Ancient Essence, you have frankincense by itself, you have myrrh by itself, and you have the combination frankincense and myrrh. And if a person was to use frankincense and myrrh, say, on their hands, does it make the hands look more youthful?
Yes, it will. If it's used on a regular basis, then you will notice a difference on the hands. If you use it regularly, it can take away the dark marks of sunspots, what they call liver spots. Those kind of things can be taken away if it's used regularly on the skin, and it'll also start to tighten up the skin so that the lines disappear.
And if someone, say, over the age of 50, has a problem with, say, liver spots, a male or female, are we talking about a 3 to 6 month time frame to minimize so-called liver spots?
Yeah, I would say at least 30 days, you'll see a difference for sure.
Really, in as little as 30 days, your experience has been that you can soften and tend to minimize so-called liver spots.
Yeah, it'll shrink them.
Wow.
Down and smaller.
All right. Well, that seems like an important. And that seems to be, I noticed that people really are concerned by, as we age, so-called liver spots. It seems to be a topic of conversation. And you feel that in as little as 30 days, you have seen liver spots on men or women minimize.
Yes.
Wow.
And I know this because I used it on myself, and I'm right-handed, so I would always apply it onto my left hand. So if you look at my two hands, my left hand has much less spots than my right hand does because I would always apply it to the left hand, and I just never, bothered to put it on the other hand. So if you use it regularly, it will work. I get so caught up with everything else I have to do that, quite frankly, I don't take very good care of myself. But for what I know, it does work. And I've had other people that have written in or called and told me that they've used it for the hands, and it did work for them as well.
And to use it on, say, both hands, do I need just about 1 drop of either frankincense or myrrh oil?
I sell it in a roll-on, so what I would do is I would just roll some onto my hand and then just forget about it like that. But I guess if you just rolled it on, then in that case it would work. And then you're going to get probably about a drop or two that's spread out with a roller,
And so for those of you just tuning in to Here's to Your Health, we're speaking with Michelle Greco, the president, the founder of Ancient Essence, the frankincense and myrrh company. Now, that roll-on that you have, is that the frankincense and myrrh roll-on?
Yes, that's the frankincense and myrrh roll-on.
And that is used for any kind of external skin issue, is that it?
Yes, and it happens to be a great scent. You know, it smells wonderful. People love the fragrance. It's very uplifting and calming, and it's very balancing too, because the frankincense and myrrh smell so differently when you smell them separately, and then when you put them two together, the synergy is just incredible.
Michelle, what was it that prompted you to investigate the use of frankincense and myrrh?
Well, what happened was when my daughter was 5 years old, she had, like a cold. She had fever, swollen glands, laying on the bed sleeping, and I really wanted to help her out so bad. So I was looking at her laying there, and I got this idea in my head that popped in, so whether it's divine inspiration or whatever you want to call it, but something just told me to go get the frankincense that I had sitting in my garage for about a year that someone had given me before, and to rub it on her swollen glands. And so I did that, and within 10 minutes or so, it took the swelling down and it took her fever down. And that's what prompted me to start doing a bunch of research about it. And that's when I found out that it was a top-traded commodity of the ancient world, and it was traded weight for weight with gold because it had so many uses. And in the ancient times, it was used for pretty much everything medicinally, as anti-inflammatory, antiviral, antiseptic, antibacterial, antitumoral. It was used for bronchitis, cough, cold, flus, just lots and lots of different uses, even like bug bites and snake bites and all kinds of things like that. It seemed to improve the condition of just about everything that it was ever used for. So then as I researched it a little more, I found out that it was also, because of the fragrance, it was used in lots of perfumes, and it still is on the market today, used as a perfume and a fixative in perfumes. And it's actually even listed as a natural spice in a lot of food items. For instance, frankincense can be found in soft drinks, like the cola drinks, and myrrh can be found in lunch meats like bologna, as is listed as a natural preservative or natural spice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that seems like a safe thing to put in meat. I mean, compared to some of the things they put in that are not so safe.
True.
And so has myrrh and frankincense always been used, and now for the past, say, 10 years, or maybe even less than 10 years, it is now reemerged as more of a, I'll use the word, popular item again?
I think that's true. And you know what else I recently found out, Josh, is that in Oman and in the area of Oman where frankincense grows a lot, the hospitals have no cancer patients because everyone is always breathing it in because they burn it pretty much in the streets. They burn it in their home. They burn it regularly, and they're always breathing it in. And the two hospitals in the town where it burns a lot, they don't have any cancer patients in their hospital. There's got to be something to that,
Well, that's in Oman. That's actually very interesting. You've read that in a publication?
Yes, I did.
Well, okay, that's very interesting. It's nice to know the value of these important medicinal herbs, which again do have such a long track record of successful use. Obviously, our ancestors had empirical evidence. They examined things, and when they found they worked, they continued with them. So I guess that's why frankincense and myrrh has continued to both be important medicinal substances, or important agricultural crops. You also mentioned in incense and how the church uses frankincense on a regular basis, and the church uses it for spiritual reasons?
Yes, they use it for spiritual reasons because they believe that the smoke would carry the prayers up to God.
Huh.
Another thing to keep in mind about the research that was being done recently, in case people didn't listen to the other shows that we did, the international laboratory research showed that the frankincense oils had the ability to shut down the cancer cells without harming healthier cells that are around it. and it shuts them down by probing the nucleus, and it resets the cancerous DNA back to a normal DNA. So it was able to, tell the cell, hey, you're wrong, and let's correct you and make you right again. And there was one doctor named Mahmoud Suhail who recently did a study on his own with a patient that had a horrible, horrible skin disease that's called ichthyosis. And I guess it gets that name because it looks like scaly fish, but it covers like large portions of the body. And it said that was the same disease that Job had in the Bible. And Job had this nasty disease that he had for years, and it wouldn't go away. So this man found this disease, and the doctor, rather, and he worked with this patient, and he was reading, in his Quran and in the Bible, how Job would sit by the water. So because of the history and him being in that region, this doctor, he was able to go to the area where Job lived, and he saw that on the water banks there was a lot of these frankincense trees in the area. So he assumed that maybe it was this water from tree instead of natural water. So he tried using the frankincense on his patient, and sure enough, the man's problem cleared up in about 18 days. It was so much less. And also with cancer, they noticed that in about, a good 18 days or so, they would see a major reduction in the number of prolific cancer cells.
And on the cancer treatment, was this used internally? And if so, in what form?
In the oil form, they did it with the oil form internally. It doesn't give you any specific ingredient list, like take 3 drops with water. It never said anything like that, But I would say, just whatever way that you can possibly think of. I mean, God forbid, if anybody has it and you want to try things natural, there's lots of things out there on the market, not only our frankincense, but there are other natural things that are available that have been working since the 1920s that we know of.
For those of you just...
This is suppressed. A lot of things have been suppressed.
I'm sorry. Michelle, for those of you who are listening to Michelle Greco today speak to us on the LA Talk Live Radio Network, Michelle, can you please give us your contact information so that people can find out about the Ancient Essence, frankincense, and myrrh oils?
Sure, thank you. It's ancientessence.com. That's ANCIENTESSENCE.com. We also have a Facebook page, but it's spelled a little bit differently. It's an S-E at the end instead of C-E. So at Facebook, it's Ancient Essence, spelled ANCIENTESSENCE. So that's the Facebook way to get a hold of us. And then also by phone, you can call 800-627-9813. And the email contact is info@ancientessence.com. And it doesn't matter which way you spell it, we'll get it.
And to get a question on price, for example, on the frankincense and myrrh roll-on that you have, what's the cost of that product?
We start off with $14.95. We like to keep it as low as possible because we want everybody to be able to experience and afford it. So $14.95 is the minimum for the oil. And then we have a larger one that's a 1 ounce, and that one is $24.95. And both of those can be purchased in roll-on, and then we also have the 1 ounce without the roll-on.
And if someone was to use, say, an ounce of frankincense oil either on the roll-on form or the liquid form, would that actually last 3 months? I'm just asking.
Yes, it would probably last about 3 months with a 1 ounce roll-on because I know that the 1/3 ounce roll-on will last about a month. So you're getting 3 times as much, should last about 3 times as long, taking into consideration that the roller top is going to be a larger surface area, maybe not quite 3 months, but close to it.
And when I use the frankincense, for example, can women use it underneath their makeup, or it's not used that way? It's used at night when you're at home. You put it on your skin and leave it on all day. How do I use frankincense?
Okay. I sell an astringent, which is frankincense, mixed with water.
Mm-hmm.
So I would dilute it with water and use it with a cotton ball, and you can use it that way on your skin direct. If you want to apply it directly to the face, then you want to keep it out of the eyes and keep it off of any sensitive areas of broken skin, because it will burn. It'll heal it, but it'll certainly give it a little sting,
Mm-hmm.
So if you have sensitive skin, you want to be very careful using it full strength on the face that way, so that you avoid having it burn the skin. But diluted as the astringent is a good way. So we've got several different products on the website there that have frankincense and myrrh in them. There's shampoos, there's lotions, veggie wash, hand wash, body wash, all kinds of things like that.
And frankincense is known to heal the skin, and even potentially could be used for some cancer problems. And will frankincense do anything for the quality of the hair?
Well, I put a couple of drops of it in my shampoo, and it gives a very lustrous appeal to the hair. It's shinier and just has a healthier volume, it seems like.
Oh, okay. And again, so the frankincense and myrrh that you sell, those all come from the Sudan? Is that where you get your frankincense and myrrh products?
Mine come from Somalia and Ethiopia. Those are the two countries that mine come from, Somalia and Ethiopia. And I feel, because from reading like some of the ancient texts, the Egyptians really liked the frankincense that came from that region, and they were always buying the best of the best, and they felt that the ones that came from the south from them, was the ones that came out of Ethiopia. That area was the best.
And when you buy these frankincense products, they come through customs with a manifest? I mean, does customs look at them in a funny way? I mean, is there a problem getting them in the United States?
Well, with mine in particular, mine comes in the resin stage. They come in as a resin, so this way they're not radiated. The oils are not radiated and treated.
Oh, I see.
So they come here in the resin stage, and then they're distilled in the United States. They're carbon distilled here. And then I get my oil in large quantities, which is one of the ways I'm able to keep the price down, is by buying very large quantities of it at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I mix the frankincense with the myrrh together to make our frankincense and myrrh mix, which is our #1 seller right now. We also have a couple of other new ones coming up. One is called Prima Love, which is amber and myrrh. And we have Shanti Peace, which is frankincense and ambers. So those are new items, and Prima Love is selling very well as well. And the Shanti Peace will be hitting the market soon. I just picked up the labels a few days ago, so those will be going out soon.
And what does amber do for me?
Well, amber is a nice smell as well. It has a very nice aroma. It's also a tree resin, and there's been some preliminary studies with it showing that it helps with some of the organs, some liver, some kidney. Those are the two that I've read about, and lungs.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And for those of you tuning in to the Here's to Your Health Wellness Show on the LA Talk Live radio network, we're speaking with Michelle Greco, the founder and president of Ancient Essence, a frankincense and myrrh company. And Michelle, once again, please give us your contact information.
Yes, thank you. Our phone number here is 800-627-9813, and the website is ancientessence.com. That's ANCIENTESSENCE.com. And then we have an email address of info@ancientessence.com. And our fax number, if anyone needs it, is 352-242-0113.
Michelle, it's been a great pleasure having you on my show today. You've been listening to Michelle Greco, the president and founder of the Ancient Essence. Thank you, Michelle. Ancient Essence.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you. Frankincense and Myrrh Company. And for those of you who have never tried frankincense and myrrh, they have a delightful fragrance. They smell lovely, and they really do improve the quality of your skin. So this is Josh Lane for Here's to Your Health. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Hi, this is Susie Pruden. And yes, you've seen me on Oprah, Good Morning America, and The Today Show. And I'm inviting you to join me every Monday from 3 to 4 for my new show, Mastermind Live. Join us as we introduce you to the new thought leaders of the world who will inspire you, support you, and guide you to your next level. So don't forget to tune into Mastermind Live exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is James Kinney from Kinney Group Creative, inviting you to join us every Thursday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our all-new show, What Catches Fire. We're going to be discussing the love, life, and politics of the American brand. So don't forget to tune in to latalklive.com every Thursday from 2 to 3 p.m. exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Our guest is Scott Minton, a PhD, who is the educator for Nordic Naturals, Nordic Naturals manufactures fish oil products and is probably the most influential fish oil producer here in the United States and in Europe. Scott Minton, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Josh, it's a real pleasure to be here.
No, thank you for being here. And luckily for you, fish oils, everybody wants them. I mean, it enjoys mainstream status as it should. And I think that Nordic Naturals is probably the preeminent manufacturer.
Well, they've worked hard to be there. They actually started out dealing with physicians years ago, and they've expanded to the retail market. But really their intent as a company is to help people restore that which their bodies need. Science has shown over the years, in fact, there's been over literally thousands of scientific papers put out showing that our bodies are deficient right now of a couple of important fats. Mm-hmm. And it really began back in the 60s when scientists discovered we need these fats called polyunsaturated fats. And so the medical community responsibly came out and said, hey, let's consume more of these fats. And so if you look at our consumption over the past 40 years, it's been an exponential rise in polyunsaturated fats. Yes. The problem is there's different kinds of polyunsaturated fats. And there was no distinguishing between two very important families. The omega-3 fats that we typically get from fish oil, or the parent molecule we can get from flaxseed oil, and omega-6 fats, which the parent molecule comes in vegetable oil. So the bottom line is we've been consuming these vegetable oil omega-6 fats over the past 40 years. Mm-hmm. And we've also discovered as a scientific community that in excess, these fats produce inflammation in our bodies. On the other hand, these omega-3 fats produce anti-inflammation, or they make these little molecules that lower inflammation. Mm-hmm. So overall, we need both, but we need them in balance. And so these fish oils then serve to counterbalance a lot of these vegetable oils we consume in our diet, from cooking oils and going out to eat and all sorts of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so really Nordic Natural is about trying to get people to understand that we need a balance and that we need to increase these anti-inflammatory fats that are easily gotten from fish to help restore people's overall health status. Because when you really look at something in common between, let's say, Alzheimer's disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, obesity. Now, these are very complex disorders with many genetic issues, many foundational environmental issues. Mm-hmm. But if you try to simplify things down to something every person can do, what we find is that inflammation is a common theme in all these disorders.
Yes.
And therefore, we can lower inflammation simply by changing what we eat. If we lower the amount of these vegetable oil, omega-6 fats, and we increase the amount of these omega-3 fish fats, we can actually counterbalance this pro-inflammatory run we've been on and help then in a positive way to affect many of these disorders that are really being a scourge on our society today.
And Scott, so you're the educator for Nordic Naturals, and you have a PhD, and where'd you get your PhD?
The University of Michigan.
In what subject?
Fish ecologies, really what it's about. Coral reef fish ecologies, what my specialty was in.
So really, when it comes to the idea of fish and the ecology of fish, you really are an expert, and that's probably why Nordic hired you.
Well, I have kind of a cosmopolitan background as well. I spent over 10 years teaching biology at a university, pre-med courses, physiology, zoology, all the ologies, if you will. And what that allowed me to do is not only see the fish world, but see how the body works. And I also spent several years as a nutritional consultant, actually working with medical doctors, trying to piece together why people are unhealthy and why they try everything. They take vitamins, they take this, they do this, they exercise, and still they don't lose weight. Still they feel bad. Still they have achy joints. And really what is wonderful about working for Nordic Naturals is that it allows me to combine all this knowledge. Mm-hmm. Not only about fish, but how the body works, and my practical experience as a nutritional consultant and as a professor to try to help people to understand why their bodies may not be working and what simple things they could do to really alter the course of their health trajectory.
And fish oils enjoy mainstream status now, much the way, and I guess in our grandparents' day, cod liver oil was possibly the remedy. Everyone, any problem, take cod liver oil. And I'm not saying that works for everything, but certainly cod liver oil is very good for us. And what are we getting when we use fish oils or cod liver oil?
Well, this is the thing that I would hope people would understand, is that the body is made out of about 60 to 100 trillion cells. Your cells make up your brain, your liver, your kidneys, your skin, your bones, to a large degree. Most of you is cells. And if you really want to be healthy, really what you need to think about is, how do I make a cell healthy? Because if you make a cell healthy, that will apply across everything, brain, heart, liver. Even though those are very distinct and different cells, the basic fundamental structure is the same. And if we look at a cell, what we really see is a conglomeration of membranes. They are surrounded by membranes, and if you look on the inside, all the little pieces and parts, such as the nucleus, the mitochondria, the endoplasmic reticulum, all these little machinery factories in there are all made up of membranes. So if most of what you are cells, and if most of what a cell is a membrane, doesn't it make sense that if you allowed membranes or you helped membranes to work better, you would work better? Okay, so what is a membrane made out of? It's made out of a bunch of these molecules called phospholipids, but a phospholipid molecule just looks like a jellyfish. It's got this head and two tails. The key is those tails are fats. And what we find is those fats are important structurally because if you have the right kinds of fats, like these omega-3 and omega-6 fats, they're kind of kinked, so they allow membranes to be flexible, youthful. But what we've learned in the last 20 years or so is these fats are actually taken out and used every single day to make signal molecules that run around and tell your body what to do. Like I was saying before, the omega-6 fats are taken out and used to make molecules that promote inflammation. Mm-hmm. That's good because you have to have an injury. You want inflammation to tell your body, hey, I need to fix this. On the other hand, you take omega-3 fats out to make anti-inflammation or to lower inflammation. And so there's that balance. And so these fish oils, from cod liver oil to salmon oil to the oils that mostly Nordic Natural uses from the sardines and the anchovies down off Peru, are actually taken out and made into anti-inflammatory compounds. And the key is to remember, just like we have to drink water every day to restore the water in our body, well, if you're using a substance in every cell of your body, structurally, and you're taking it and using it functionally, we need to replace those because you're always trying to maintain and restore what your cells are. And therefore, we need to bring these fats in on a regular basis every single day so they go into our cells, maintain the structure properly, and then they're taken out and used to maintain this inflammatory, anti-inflammatory balance. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg, because what's really where the research is going on omega-3 fish oils now is that they are actually taken out and used to bind to receptors, go into the nucleus, and actually control a lot of what the DNA does. For example, you'll see a lot of research now on how you take fish oil and your cholesterol lowers. Mm-hmm. How does that work? How do you take a fish oil and the cholesterol lowers? Well, it's because that fish oil is taken out, binds to a receptor, goes into the nucleus, and the nucleus now goes, well, I've got the right kind of fat. I don't need to ask for any more fat, and therefore the liver stops cranking out so much of these LDL fat particles. And so a lot of this stuff makes sense when you start understanding kind of what these fats do in cells. And if people can remember, they are cells. If you want to get healthy, whether you have memory issues, cardiovascular issues, trouble with blood sugar, you want to change the status quo, what you want to do is improve the health, the structural integrity, the way your cells work. And one of the easiest things to do is to lower these pro-inflammatory fats in your diet from vegetable oil. Just eat less.
Less soy oil, less corn oil.
Exactly.
Less safflower oil, less of the vegetable oils, and more fish.
Yes, fish and fish oil. Now, you brought up an important point there, kind of obliquely, in that if we eat a lot of fish, which is good, we also bring in a lot of the contaminants that are in the ocean.
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
And that's where when you buy a fish oil, you want to make sure that it's pure. Now, how do you do that? Of course, how do you know a company has integrity? Well, I think a lot of people can approach this the same way we do when we want to buy a car or a toaster. We go to a third-party independent group to say, hey, I've checked these guys and they're okay. And actually, Nordic Naturals uses a third-party lab called IFOS. They have a website, IFOS, that actually evaluates the contaminants in the fish oil, from heavy metals to PCBs to measures of oxidative stress, or how much the oxygen in the environment has damaged the fish oil. And they can actually, anybody who wants can get actually a printout of the numbers of how much stuff is in there. And if you do diligence, you'll find that Nordic Naturals has very tiny amounts, parts per million, parts per trillion, amounts that you can consume for literally 100 years before getting a free radical.
Now let me ask you a question about Nordic Naturals.
Sure.
Nordic Naturals is a major manufacturer of fish oils. There's not a private label company. They manufacture fish oils in their own laboratory. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where is their laboratory?
There's a manufacturing conglomeration up in Norway.
So this is a Northern European company.
Well, it's the fish is actually taken from various places. The sardines and anchovies for most of the products are taken from Peru. Mm-hmm. The cod liver oil is taken from cod from the North Atlantic. Salmon oil is taken from a very specific place in Alaska. And then the oil then is cleaned under a very proprietary process. Mm-hmm. It's also protected from the oxygen I just mentioned by layering the whole process in nitrogen. And that's where a lot of the fishy taste comes from in many fish oils, is oxygen has damaged the fish oil. Oh. So by blanketing it in nitrogen, you can be assumed that you won't get a fishy taste nor fishy burps from the fish oil.
Yeah, because people do complain about fish oils they buy. They say, oh yeah, I took it, but I'm not happy because I'm burping up fish. And really, no one really wants that. And I've heard that a certain amount people buy various brands at some of the mass market stores and think, well, I tried fish oil, but I really it didn't sit good.
Yeah, I challenge everyone to open a bottle of Nordic Naturals, take out a pill, and chew it up.
And really, based on your experience, they do well on the Nordic Naturals.
Yes, and when I first joined the company, I was actually in Florida, and one of the reps there had a bottle of Nordic Naturals they had left in their car in Florida for a week.
Oh, dear.
And he goes, try it. So I, holding my nose and closing my eyes, I actually chewed up one of these, and there was only the slightest hint. And that was actually after sitting in the heat in Florida, being blasted for a week.
Well, that was very brave of you.
Yeah. And so I showed to myself that this process of actually cleaning up the mess prior to giving it to people really is effective.
And how much fish oil does a person over the age of 40, let's do the male and female, I guess, body weight thing, what is the good amount that we adults need of EPA DHA per day?
Well, my answer to that is always we should ask our own bodies first. The reason for that is we have different sizes, we have different metabolisms, we have different muscle masses, we have different hormone levels, stress, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so even though we're all humans, we're all going to be a little different. And you can go to your physician and ask for an omega-3 6 test. You can go online to omega3test.com and get a kit in the mail to test your body. Yes, It's a little pinprick test. Very simple, very inexpensive, very comprehensive. And once you find that out, you can actually then dial in the amount you need. Now, let's say somebody says, well, I don't want a test. Just tell me. What does the research suggest? Well, the research suggests that, at least from cardiovascular health perspective, when you have upwards of 50% of these fats in every one of your cell membranes, your risk of dying from cardiovascular disease drops by about 90%.
Okay, that's significant.
Yeah. In fact, Eskimos, who have virtually no cardiovascular disease, have upwards of 70% of these omega-3 fats, EPA and DHA, in their cell membranes.
And the I guess we're speaking of the Inuit, etc.
Yes.
And those native groups are mostly fish eaters.
Exactly.
Mostly fish, right?
Exactly. Compared to most Americans who have about 20% of EPA and DHA in their cell membranes. So basically the story is, as we increase the amount of these fats in all our cell membranes, there seems to be a positive benefit. So the question is, how much do I need to take? Well, again, it's going to vary on your history and everything else, but a lot of research suggests now that approximately 4 grams a day of EPA and DHA, while lowering simultaneously the amount of omega-6 vegetable oils, you will see some sort of improvement, and that's going to vary on from individual to individual. But at that amount, then, you're actually bringing in sufficient quantities to alter the balance. And you got to remember, some cells are very slow growing, so they're going to replace fats one at a time over time. Where some other cells replace themselves very quickly, so you're going to see a little bit faster change there. So it's going to be a little different in everyone.
But when a person comes into a natural food store, or a grocery store for that matter at this point, to buy fish oils, what are they looking for? Are they looking for how much EPA per capsule, how much DHA per capsule? Those are the two markers that we really need to focus on?
You know what? I think overall people want to know that it works and is it safe?
Yes.
And we already touched on, is it safe with regard to purity? The question, does it work, comes in terms of research. Does EPA and DHA actually alter cell structure and function? And that seems to be shown over and over again. And then what about all the brands that are out there? Which one do I pick? How do I know which one works?
Yes.
I'll just let you know that Nordic Naturals has over 24 scientific studies now done by medical doctors and researchers across the country, where they took the product right off the shelf, put it into people and laboratory animals, and have found a statistically significant change in everything from anger, anxiety, cardiovascular health, blood sugar problems, obesity, all these kind of issues that are causing people problems.
Right.
And I should mention also something else with regard to how do I know it works? And even if I take a less than 4 grams a day, how do I know that it's even getting into me? Most fats that enter your body are in the form of a triglyceride. 3 little fats stuck on a pole. That's what tri means 3. And so EPA and DHA will come in from a fish on a triglyceride. And so your body's really designed to recognize, take apart, absorb, and then use fats in the form of triglycerides. So Nordic Naturals actually delivers EPA and DHA in the form of triglycerides in the capsules and in the liquids. Other companies may give it to you in what's called an ethyl ester form. In fact, the prescription Lovaza is a prescription fish oil, but it's in an ethyl ester form.
Yes.
Now, what's an ethyl ester? Well, if you take one fat off that triglyceride and just leave it by itself, and you stuck a stabilizing group called an ethyl group onto it, that's an ethyl ester. But now it's just a single little fat sitting there, and it's a non-native molecule.
Oh, I see.
And according to studies that have compared the uptake or the absorption of triglycerides versus ethyl esters, information that has recently come out from the European Food Safety Administration suggests that actually triglycerides are absorbed at a faster rate than ethyl esters. So, what makes a fish oil effective? Well, first of all, you have to get it into you.
Yes.
And that comes from the form it's in, and apparently triglycerides seem to be a very, very important feature of getting these fats into you.
Bill, hold that thought. For those of you just tuning in, we're speaking with Scott Minton, who is a PhD at University of Michigan, who is the educator for Nordic Naturals, and you're listening to us today on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm Josh Lane, and the show is Here's to Your Health, and we're back now with Scott Minton. So you're saying that the ethyl ester form, you really you would not recommend it, that it's not as efficiently utilized as the triglyceride form.
It will work, but it's less efficient according to most studies, both short term, like a couple of weeks, and longer term, over 6 months.
So it works, but it's not the preferred form. Is that a fair statement?
I would say your body prefers the triglyceride form. Yeah, because that's your body's designed to have it. I mean, it's designed to take in fats as triglycerides. So it recognizes it, takes it apart, absorbs it, puts the fats back in, ships it up to the liver, and you start using them. So it's just a more natural way, if you will, to use the fats.
And once again, let's just go back with it. Let's say we men, at our age, mature men, about the same size here. So how much fish oil do you take per day is in your opinion, as a scientist and as a healthy guy, what's your thinking on that?
Well, I take what I need. I have tested my own body, and based upon my workouts, my particular genetic makeup, my history, my liver function, all sorts of things, I've taken that into account, and so I take an amount actually greater than 4 grams a day. But for the...
Based on your scientific background, you feel that you have special needs, so to speak, and you need more fish oils than another person.
Exactly. And somebody who is different than I am may be able to get away with much less. In fact, a really fascinating study just came out in the last month that showed you can actually raise EPA and DHA in your cell membranes, not by eating fish, not by eating fish oil, but simply by eating less vegetable oil. Why? Because these fats compete with each other for the same enzymes. So by taking away the competitor, the omega-3 fats can actually be made a little bit more efficiently in your body. And normally they're made, but very at low levels, very inefficiently. But you can make more, and therefore actually do a lot without even eating fish or fish oil.
Let me ask you a kind of a personal question a little bit. So you're a scientist, and I assume that you are a careful lifestyle person. You look like a healthy person. And so was there a time when you were less careful, and when you started using fish oils, maybe when you started working for Nordic, that you thought, oh my goodness, these really kicked in. I just feel sharper. What was it? Or if it's not a personal story, have there any stories like that you have seen with people you've worked with who said, Scott, just in a couple of weeks I was taking this and I just feel sharper. I feel anything?
If I have time, I'll give you 2 quick stories.
Yeah, you have time.
The first one is a personal friend of mine who had a long-standing infection in her jaw. Okay?
Oh, dear.
And it was one of these hidden infections that they finally found, and they needed to go in and actually cut open her jaw, clean out the infection, and then deal with the aftermath. And historically, these are very messy operations, takes a long time to heal, a lot of pain, problems, and so forth. So my friend, who is also a nutritionist, actually was taking sufficient quantities of fish oil. And in fact, prior to about 3 months before the operation, she really upped her intake. And after the surgery, she went back in about 2 weeks, and the physicians were dumbfounded. They could not believe the healing that had taken place. They could not believe she wasn't in agonizing pain. She could not. They could not believe the situation, that the body actually healed itself like it should. That inflammation still wasn't running rampant. Okay, so that's just a personal story from somebody I know.
Thank you. That's good.
A second story was one that I was actually on CNN recently. It was a young man who went head-on with a tree in a car coming home from some high school event.
Oh, dear.
And he was pronounced basically brain dead in the hospital. Well, his father did not want to accept that. And through a series of events, he came across a doctor who was working for the military at the time, Dr. Mike Lewis, who was investigating brain trauma in soldiers. And he was starting to use fish oil because he knew fish oil was an anti-inflammatory. And trauma usually promotes inflammation, so he was trying to see how that could work. Well, the two got together and decided to put in about 20 grams, 20,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA a day into this young man.
Intravenously?
Actually, into their gut, into his gut. He had a gut tube.
Oh, I see. Being fed, he was fed. Okay.
Exactly. So in less than 2 weeks, he was out of a coma. In less than 3 months, they helped him walk across his high school graduation. He is now giving talks about his experience.
Wow. So that just using fish oils to restore a young man to vitality.
Well, you know what? When I think about it, there was fish oil involved. There was the best medical care. There was prayer. There was providence.
Yes.
I vote for all of the above.
Yes, that's inspiring.
And so, but did fish oil play a role? It looks like it does. And does it make physiological sense? Yes, it went into the brain. It helped to restore the structure of a damaged brain. It lowered inflammation, which is classic in these kind of cases. And there's no standard of care for the brain for these kind of injuries, because the injuries are so small, you're tearing little pieces of neurons. How do you fix that? Well, the only way to fix it is to give the body what it needs to repair itself, Because if you don't, the body will naturally just, especially in the brain, try to lay down scar tissue to protect and heal. But when you have a bunch of scar tissue in your brain, it actually blocks the nerves from
I would think so.
repairing and talking to each other.
For those of you just tuning in, you're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. Scott Minton, PhD, the educator for Nordic Naturals, is our guest. Scott, how can we contact Nordic Naturals?
NordicNaturals.com.
Nordic Naturals, that was succinct. NordicNaturals.com.
That's it. And most health food stores carry it. Whole Foods, Mother's, many of the smaller local stores often carry it. And you can go in there and ask, or you can call. You can go to Nordic Naturals. Nordic Naturals' website has information on their products. It also has links to the research studies that have been done on its products. So you don't have to believe what I say. You can actually go on, look, and read the papers yourself if you're interested, and it might be an eye-opener for many people.
Well, Scott Minton from Nordic Naturals, thank you for being a guest today on Here's to Your Health. A very informative discussion about the value of fish oils. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. We will be right back after these important messages.
Suffer from degenerative diseases such as high blood pressure, diabetes, fibroid tumors, high cholesterol, genital herpes, or a plethora of other diseases that rob you of a quality life? If so, then visit the website of herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra at dhealthstore.com and open the door to natural healing at an affordable price. dhealthstore.com has over 1,800 products created by herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra, specifically designed to help you heal the natural and safe way. At dhealthstore.com, you'll find everything from herbal formulas and cleanses, such as Tahuti's famous Full Body Detox, as well as herbal teas, extracts, natural body butters, lotions, creams, children's products, hair care products, and of course, sexual enhancement products for both men and women. So visit the website of Tahuti Ma'atra, dhealthstore.com, or call toll free at 1-888-823-9416. dhealthstore.com.
Get the biggest and fastest refunds on the planet, guaranteed. One call to First Quality Tax Service does it. First Quality Tax Service is committed to their model of triple protection, worry-free, peace of mind accuracy guaranteed. In these difficult economic times, First Quality Tax Service has created options to help you avoid the upfront cost of their service, which means no out-of-pocket expense for you. Assisting in personal and business tax preparation. Call 310-677-1047. That's 310-677-1047. Or stop by 1401 North La Brea Avenue on the corner of 64th Place and La Brea.
Are you tired of getting sick and tired? Are you tired of doctors not knowing what's wrong with you? D-Herbs may have the answer. D-Herbs, #1 in herbal remedies. D-Herbs' main goal is to enlighten and properly educate people to the importance of human health and nutrition. D-Herbs, home of the full body cleanse. Everyone needs to cleanse. If you eat meat and dairy products, you need to cleanse. If you're eating processed foods, you need to cleanse. 90% of today's diseases that we suffer from are diet-related. Cleansing opens the door to healing and rejuvenation. Whether you need help with a chronic disease, weight loss, or to jumpstart and eliminate fatigue, D-Herbs Full Body Cleanse can help. There's a better way to live and healthier way to live. Experience healing. Visit us at dherbs.com. That's DHERBS.com, or call us at 866-434-3727. That's 866-434-3727.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience.
Is he on the
And
phone?
now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. I would like to mention an important product you may have seen in your natural food stores called AHCC, which is a powerful aid in fighting viruses and infections. And I do want to mention that the AHCC is a Japanese product with an American label. It has been used for more than 40 years in their hospitals to help heal serious immune problems, including cancer. It is sold in the United States under a variety of labels, but the active ingredient is AHCC, which again is a patented product from Japan. And the AHCC usually comes in a 500 milligram capsule. And let's say you have a problem, everyone at work is sick with colds or flu, and you decide you don't want to get sick with colds or flu. So then you would just take, say, 1 capsule per day, maybe 2 to start for the first week. And within the first week of taking, say, 2 a day, a total of 1,000 milligrams, you just feel very energetic. Not like drinking coffee. You don't feel speedy. You just feel very energetic and like you can do a lot of work. And after 1 week at 2 a day, just take 1 a day. And really you do manage to minimize most of your colds and flu. It's really a remarkable product. And in Japan, in their hospitals for the past 40 years, the AHCC has been used as a mainstream item to help with cancer treatment, as a mainstream item in their hospitals. Now, many of you are familiar with beta-glucan. And beta-glucan is a very useful and important nutritional supplement. And I am happy to recommend it. But the AHCC, as it turns out, is an alpha-glucan. It's a newer generation of thinking, and it has a lower molecular weight, and so the body cells absorb it with greater facility. And so while beta-glucan is fine to use and actually very good to use, the AHCC seems to be scientifically newer and better absorbed by the body, even though, of course, beta-glucan is still very valuable. And for those of you who are looking to purchase AHCC, almost all the natural food stores in the United States carry AHCC, and they carry it under a variety of labels. And all of it is manufactured in Japan, I believe by the Amino Up Corporation. And so it's a patented product. And various of the companies have licensing agreements, and they might sell it in a 30 capsule size or in a 60 capsule size, or even sometimes in a 750 milligram 60 capsule size. So we have a variety of choices on that. So that's AHCC, one of the products that I am very happy to recommend, and I just wanted to do that little short presentation on AHCC. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take just a very short break, and we're going to be right back with Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live after these important messages.
Walk, run, climb, play. Solgar number 7 can help. Feel the difference for yourself. Solgar number 7 actually shows improvement in joint comfort within 7 days. Now you can start to get back on track fast and pursue the activities you love. Solgar number 7 is a breakthrough in joint care with no glucosamine and no chondroitin. The advanced bioactives in Solgar number 7 help to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and actually shows improvement within just 7 days. 1 capsule, once a day, is all you need. When stiff joints occasionally say no, Solgar number 7 says yes. Visit Solgar.com and learn more about Solgar number 7 today. That's www.solgar.com, www.solgar.com. Solgar number 7, official sponsors of Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane and LA Talk Live.
Hi, this is Susie Pruden. And yes, you've seen me on Oprah, Good Morning America, and The Today Show. And I'm inviting you to join me every Monday from 3 to 4 for my new show, Mastermind Live. Join us as we introduce you to the new thought leaders of the world who will inspire you, support you, and guide you to your next level. So don't forget to tune into Mastermind Live exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. And our guest is an educator for Genesis Today. Genesis Today is a very popular supplement line that sells a variety of products, including green coffee bean, which is very popular. They've got a number of I'll say fruit oils, fruit liquids that are very popular. And Genesis Today actually has really kind of gained a lot of market share. People really like their products, and they sent us Kimberly Olson is the educator for Genesis Today. Kimberly, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And when did you become involved with Genesis Today?
Just about a year ago. I've actually been using their products with my clients for about 4 years, and I really was super passionate about their line, and so I connected with them to see if there was a way that it could be, my full-time career. So that's what happened. I'm now their educator and trainer, and I do it nationally for them, and it's a great fit because I obviously firsthand get to use the products with my clients and then go out in the field and recommend it to health food stores.
And for those people who are unfamiliar with Genesis Today, I know you have a green coffee bean extract, and green coffee bean is very popular now as a weight loss item, and Dr. Oz seems to think very highly of it, and Oz has a lot of clout. Do you want to start with the green coffee bean? Or what exactly are we looking for when we use green coffee bean?
I would love to start with that one. That's actually my favorite out of all of them. I usually will build a program for people and use several supplements, but if I could pick one, almost that magic bullet, it would be the green coffee bean. So it's been around for a long time. They've actually, research goes back, they were looking at things like what it was helping people who had diabetes, blood pressure, and nothing really with weight. And just over time, they kind of saw as a side effect, people who, a lot of times if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, you're also overweight. And they were seeing that the people were losing weight. So there was an independent study done just to look at the weight loss. It was done out of Scranton University. The study was released last year at a medical conference. And of course, the scientific community went crazy because the results were so profound. So it was a 22-week trial. Throughout the study, they had different segments to it of where they would use the green coffee bean in different dosages. One segment, it was 12 weeks. The participants lost an average of 17 pounds, but most importantly, they lost 16% body fat. I mean, a lot of times people lose weight, it's water weight, muscle. They were losing what you want to lose, body fat. In the last 6 weeks of the study, they stopped taking it, and they didn't gain any of the weight back. Huh? So the very first person to actually introduce green coffee bean to Dr. Oz, and we always kind of laugh about this, is Dr. Lindsay Duncan. He's the creator and founder of Genesis Today. So in April, he was teaching Dr. Oz about it, and we always, thank Dr. Oz for all the publicity and the things he does for us. Yes. It is remarkable. But Dr. Oz, obviously he did his own experiment as well, so he's a big fan of it.
So this green coffee bean study was done at the University of Scranton. And again, it was over, you said a 16-week period?
22 weeks
22
total.
Weeks.
Yep, but there were different phases to it. So the participants got the best results when they were taking 1,100 milligrams per day of green coffee bean.
And the green coffee bean, that's not the same thing as drinking a cup of coffee.
Correct. And that's a great point. A lot of times people will say, oh, well, I drink coffee, do I get the same benefits? Or where's that green tea extract? No. It's very specific. It's green coffee bean. So in nature, you have a green coffee bean fruit. If you Google it, it's really pretty, gorgeous red. You split it open and there's a bean in there. When you roast a coffee bean, you actually destroy the active compound, which is called chlorogenic acid. When we roast coffee, we're talking 475 degrees. I mean, that chlorogenic acid is greatly diminished.
Right.
So that's the magic behind it. That's the mechanism of action to help get those great results is actually the chlorogenic acid.
And the chlorogenic acid is available in a green coffee bean extract. It is largely destroyed or rendered inert in a roasted coffee.
Right. And what's important to note when you bring that up is how you can get it, what form. The way I love it is in the capsule form, 100% pure. What I like about Genesis today, because honestly, there are hundreds of companies that have sprung up overnight with this.
Right.
Some of them, I'll look for the nutrition or supplement facts panel to help people who ask me questions on YouTube and stuff like that, and I can't find any information. So what I like about ours, it's 100% pure, and with it, in nature, you have 12 different kind of chlorogenic acids that are in a green coffee bean. Genesis today extracts the whole thing, and then you're getting that in a capsule. Other ingredient would be obviously a vegetable capsule. Now there is another one. There's traditional green coffee bean, and then there's another one that's the brand name version. It's called Svetol. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I've seen the name.
Dr. Oz, he actually
What was the name once again?
Svetol. There's people will pronounce it different ways, but it's Svetol.
Does that sound Russian?
I think it's Swedish or something. Okay. And Dr. Oz did his own experiment with the audience. It was actually very cool. If you want to check it out, it's on YouTube. There's a clip. And he took 100 people from the audience and had them take half did the placebo, half did Svetol. And they the placebo group lost half as much as the other group. So there was an effect for everybody. But he endorsed, kind of was trying to help. He recommended the brand name Svetol. So Genesis today has both. They have, I call it the traditional and then the Svetol version. Really, they're very similar. The Svetol is just the patented version of it.
I see. Oh, it's the patented version. So in other words, we have scientific studies supporting and claims of that patented product.
You got it.
Okay, that actually does seem important, as opposed to some company coming out with a product with borrowed science, and their raw material may or may not work.
Right.
Well, that does seem very fair.
Yeah, raw material, where it's wild harvest, is it wild harvested? Where is it sourced from? That's the potency and the power to it. And also with chlorogenic acid, you're also looking for the percentage. And Dr. Oz also recommended this as well, and I fully back it. 45% or more is what you're looking for. And even the Genesis Today brand was tested in at the market at 61%.
And the way that the product is usually used is I use one capsule, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So that is actually what Dr. Oz recommended, one capsule 3 times a day. I find with clients, it's kind of hard for them to remember. So I just say do 2 capsules before breakfast, 1 capsule in the afternoon. That's for the participants in the study, the Scranton University study. They actually were in the overweight category. So if somebody has 0 to 30 pounds to lose, they fall right there. If I have a client who has
0 to 30, that's
your magic
number.
Weight, right? Yep. Right. And then if somebody is actually over 30, they're in the obese category, I do recommend 2 capsules twice a day. So the mechanism of action, because people always go, well, how does it work? And what's the magic behind it? So ideally, 30 minutes before meals with a big glass of water is optimal. It gives your body time to take it in. That's important because if people say it's not really working, I always ask, are you remembering to take it? Are you taking it right with your food? Because you've got to give it time to get into your system. And when you eat food, the chlorogenic acid inhibits your body from using your food as fuel and forces your liver to metabolize your stored fat and use that as your energy source. So you're still getting the sugar, some sugar and all the nutrients from your food. You're just not getting as much. And with weight loss and insulin and all of that, it goes hand in hand. So the chlorogenic acid inhibits your body from kind of utilizing your food, and it kicks into its backup system, which is your body fat, and it later pulls that for energy.
All right.
And then in the studies, there were no, people always ask this, side effects, toxicity, contraindications. Those that had high blood pressure, blood sugar levels, or cholesterol, all their levels came down to the normal range. I have one client. Wow. I have one client that he's been on blood pressure medication since he was 18. It's hereditary, super healthy. He works out. And just over time, we weaned off his medication, added in the green coffee bean. He's now on just green coffee bean, and his numbers are better than when he was on his medication.
Well, that's very nice.
I am so happy. I mean, that's like huge victory as a nutritionist, And then another client, just in 4 months, because the eating habits just weren't there, to be honest. So I said, well, just take this from me. Just try this. Over 50 pounds lost in 4 months. That's my biggest success with the client so far, but just from the green coffee bean. How cool is that?
Well, that's actually impressive. A nice, safe, inexpensive, non-pharmaceutical product that helps. And again, so you feel it's best used half an hour before a meal.
Absolutely.
Okay, because I thought someone had mentioned to me that, no, you take it with a meal. And I see that you say, no, it's better half an hour before a meal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, am I supposed to take it with a protein meal or a carbohydrate meal, or it doesn't matter?
It does matter.
It does matter.
If someone eats super healthy, they have salad for lunch and they take the green coffee bean, they're probably not going to see the benefits versus someone who had a starchy carb meal, pizza, pasta, bagels, because it's actually inhibiting that starchy carb more or less. So if someone is already doing the work that the green coffee bean would do, you're not going to see the benefits. So it's actually kind of funny, but the people who benefit the most are the ones that probably eat more carbs.
People who are not as careful with their eating.
Yes.
And again, so you do recommend 3 capsules a day, say 2 half an hour before breakfast, and then 1, say, half an hour before lunch. Is that it?
Yeah, or even before dinner. It's not a stimulant. Even though it's coffee, it has about 16 to 20 milligrams of caffeine per serving, which is less than 1 ounce of brewed coffee. And the people in the studies, their heartbeats came down 1 to 2 beats per minute. So if anything, it's kind of has a calming effect on the central nervous system.
And what is the time frame for a green coffee bean extract to kick in? Because it's not a drug, so people can't expect to lose a lot of weight in 2 or 3 days, correct?
Right.
And so what is the time frame? What can a person expect from using a green coffee bean extract from Genesis Today?
Out of all the supplements, and we'll talk about a few other ones, green coffee bean does happen the quickest as far as seeing visual results. When Dr. Oz brought in some participants the first time it was aired, he did over the weekend. One lady lost 3 and one lost 5 over the weekend.
Over the weekend.
But I usually tell people, and you probably do as well with supplements, is give it at least 2 weeks to even make a decision, and for sure at 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks, give it enough time to see how you do with it. But most likely people see something within a couple weeks.
Oh, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was some discussion I've had recently with people who are in the profession who understand wellness, and they were mentioning that when clients use the green coffee bean extract, that they can't expect to see results in 2 weeks, that they're really not going to. That really takes, they said 4, 6, 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed fair to me. I have no real experience with green coffee bean as far as, long-term recommendations. But you think people can see some results reasonably quickly?
I've absolutely seen it with my clients. I actually used it for 4 weeks myself to test my body fat because I wanted to see,
what it do for you?
I lost 4% body fat, which is actually really fast. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I kind of weaned back off because I was like, all right.
Wow.
Yeah. So I even use, I got to see myself as well. But usually 4 to 6 weeks, like you said, is the general recommendation for supplements to see a difference depending on what it is. This one just seems to be pretty potent compared to the other ones. And also it's a program. So if you are able to put a few pieces together, you can skyrocket your results.
All right. For those of you just tuning in today to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network, we're speaking with Kimberly Olson, the educator for Genesis Today. Genesis Today, the supplement manufacturer who is very well known for their green coffee bean extract and also for many other, I'll use the word superfruits that are very popular, superfoods, superfruits. Mm-hmm. And what are some of the other ones that Genesis Today is known for?
The very first product line they ever came out with is the superfruit juices, acai, noni, goji, mangosteen, and they're therapeutic healing, 100% pure, wild harvested. Dr. Lindsay went around the world to find the most potent, and that's why I love superfoods. I'm actually super passionate about it. I do lectures all the time on it. I could talk about it all day. And I love that about Dr. Lindsay. He's a mentor of mine. He wanted to find a way to find these healing foods that aren't right here in the U.S. and find a way to get them here to the masses. So that's what they're known for. That's what was their core product line.
So you just mentioned a number of foods that probably many of us know that maybe 20 years ago none of us knew, but now the world's become very international. We know things like noni or goji or mangosteen. So why don't we start with noni? What does noni, N-O-N-I, do for me?
Noni is not only amazing for health overall. If I went onto a deserted island and took one Genesis Today product with me, guess what it would be? Noni.
Really?
And it's disgusting. Okay. It tastes like Parmesan cheese and vinegar.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yes, it's not fantastic.
It's not fantastic at all. Now I love it and I can just drink it. But
oh, really?
Yeah, so it has overall health benefits, but it also helps with weight loss, believe it or not.
Noni.
So people can just start putting that into their arsenal. Yeah. Noni is known as the cheese fruit in Hawaii. And what it does is it destroys anything harmful, yeast, parasites, fungus, bacteria. Now, I take it.
Oh, I see.
I take it every day, even when I travel, because it cleanses your liver and it purifies your blood. So think of it as a daily detoxifier. And people don't realize detoxification and weight loss are directly linked to each other.
Really?
They always think of detoxification as, I'm going to do a 3-day detox. What we don't realize is that depending on how clean your liver is, that's going to impact how much bile your liver is able to produce. And your bile breaks down your fatty acids. So imagine you're eating processed food, fatty food. Your liver gets bogged down. It's hard on your liver, and your liver kind of becomes sluggish. Well, it can't produce the bile it needs to produce, and then it's not going to break down that fat. So when people struggle with that scale, the number on the scale isn't moving, I really do dive in a lot with detoxification and see what's going on there. So Noni will do that for sure.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not know the tie-in there. And now Noni does actually, unfortunately, taste a little weird, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's really, ooh, it's a rough one. Really.
I always say slam it, move on with your day. Don't sip it, don't smell it, just do it.
And what is the recommendation on Noni? A little half ounce a day? An ounce a day?
1 ounce. 1 to 2 ounces is what it says on the bottle. It's 100% pure. There are companies that will make it they'll dilute it with juices to make it taste better. I just say let's go for the whole thing.
And that requires refrigeration after you open it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you do an ounce like first thing in the morning? How do you use it actually?
I love to do a shot of Noni in the morning, and then I'll do room temperature water with organic lemon in it, maybe fiber sometimes. And it's a way to just kind of flush out, because when we sleep, our body's kind of getting rid of toxins. Well, we want to flush that out and get that out of our system. So I start my day off that way. And then if I have a long day, those days where you went a little further as far as energy and you get home, what I'll do is I'll actually drink 4 ounces of Noni.
Really?
And I'm like Superwoman the next day, rock star status. Like I have so much energy. So it's just my way to kind of help my body bring it back into balance.
And once again, what will Noni, Noni, do for me? Just mention that once again. What does Noni do besides weight loss?
It's going to cleanse your liver. It's going to purify your blood. The alkaline diet. I'm a huge fan of it.
Yes.
People talk a lot about it, obviously, right in this area. Noni is one of the most alkaline foods on the planet. So when people are repulsed by it, when I dive into their diet a lot of times, I find they are addicted to sugar. Their bodies are more acidic. So it's actually a really cool thing that you can kind of change your diet and see the progress where Noni doesn't even bother you over time. So it's going to help with that whole balance piece.
And okay, so you found it's good for weight loss. It helps cleanse the liver. Actually, cleansing the liver seems very important. What else does Noni do?
It destroys anything harmful. So it actually grows a lot of times near volcanoes. And to be a plant by a volcano, you have to be very resilient. But you also get the nutrients of the soil. It's very lush. Yes, right. Noni tends to grow with other plants. So if you look at a Noni, what it looks like a hand grenade. So I always tell clients, imagine this in your body. It's going to destroy anything harmful: yeast, parasites, fungus, bacteria, even topically. If somebody had a fungal infection, I've had ladies who have had brown liver spots. That's a sign of something with your liver over time.
Yes.
You can apply it topically, and over time it will diminish.
Oh, that's nice to know.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it smells gross, but it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And Noni, Noni's been around for about, at least 10 years, maybe longer. So Noni is like
it's been around for centuries. But as far as the Genesis today,
Genesis today,
I've talked to some people. Genesis came out in 2001. They were probably the first ones to massively, and it was in Whole Foods by 2003. But I talked to people who, on their own, they've used Noni for a while. There's a lady that was on the doctors. She looked about 47. She was 73 years old. I'm not kidding you. She drank her own Noni juice she'd been making since she was, 30 years old. So I'm a believer.
Well, actually, you're helping me be a believer because, unfortunately, Noni, you said Parmesan cheese and vinegar. That's very fair. It's also kind of maybe even on the kind side.
Yeah.
It does have a weird smell, boy.
It does.
It does. Okay, let's talk about something that has a much better taste. What about goji?
Goji, as you can tell, I drink a lot of it. It's the happy berry.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
I love goji so much. It actually tastes like prune juice and molasses, but I'm not even saying it right. I mean, it's way better than that. But what it does is
that's actually a pretty far characterization.
It's good though.
It's very good,
kids even like it. But as we age, we naturally stop producing the feel-good hormones like human growth hormone, serotonin, norepinephrine, and a lot of times, especially my female clients, I would say mid-30s to older, they come to me with a lot of them are on mild antidepressants or depression medication.
Yes, a lot of that.
Anxiety.
Right.
And what happens is over time we stop producing those good hormones. And even men, they get that they just feel lost and they don't know.
Oh, so yeah. Men get their kind of same version of what women get. Yes.
They do in a different way. A lot of times it's career related, but they kind of have that feeling of like no oomph, no spark.
Definitely.
So what goji does, it's naturally what's called a secretagogue, and it helps our body stimulate those feel-good hormones. So it's amazing for mood, mind, memory. The legend of the man that lived the longest in China had a goji soup every morning. Supposedly he was like 250 years old, but they can't verify it, whatever. But I still take it every day because of that. And then it's loaded with beta carotene, which is great for eye health. So Obviously, emotional eaters, that's in my arsenal for them. People who eat, they eat those things because it feels good. A
Yes.
piece of chocolate, a dark chocolate, if you eat that, it makes you feel good, equivalent to a 15-second hug. That's the
Oh,
endorphins
really?
it's releasing. Yeah,
Oh,
so
wow,
we
I had
want
no
these
idea.
things because they feel good. So goji is going to help to support with emotional eating.
And how much goji do you suggest per day?
Well, if it's just maintenance, just daily overall happiness, 1 to 2 ounces. Some people do 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon because the mid-afternoon can be kind of hard for people.
Yeah.
They start to feel like I want a snack or something. But if somebody's really has some rebalancing that needs to happen, I would even up that amount, probably to 2 to 4 ounces.
And the goji that Genesis Today manufactures, where do they get their goji?
The goji is actually wild harvested in the Himalayan mountains. And what's really interesting about Genesis Today is not only does he find where it's naturally harvested, but that's where we harvest it. And for example, the care behind it, the goji berry, you can't pull it off a bush or you'll bruise it. It's kind of like an olive. So what they do in all our farms, it's like fair trade farms, but
Well, that's good to hear.
yeah, there's no machines on the farm. There's no trucks. It's just all by hand. They take the base of the bush and they shake it, and the only berries that are ripe fall into these white claws. And then they take those on the boats and take them off, and they're never touched by human hands in the entire process.
Really?
Isn't that fascinating?
It is fascinating.
I
Wow.
just think that's so great, just to honor that. So they've actually been using, goji's been around since 2000 BC. And, they didn't have billboards back then, so obviously they're doing something right. So
That's very true.
There's a lot of history behind it.
For those of you just tuning in, you're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. We're speaking with Kimberly Olson, who's the educator for Genesis Today, excellent products. And we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be right back with Kimberly after these important messages.
Are you tired of getting sick and tired? Are you tired of doctors not knowing what's wrong with you? D-Herbs may have the answer. D-Herbs, #1 in herbal remedies. D-Herbs' main goal is to enlighten and properly educate people to the importance of human health and nutrition. D-Herbs, home of the full body cleanse. Everyone needs to cleanse. If you eat meat and dairy products, you need to cleanse. If you're eating processed foods, you need to cleanse. 90% of today's diseases that we suffer from are diet related. Cleansing opens the door to healing and rejuvenation. Whether you need help with a chronic disease, weight loss, or to jumpstart and eliminate fatigue, D-Herbs Full Body Cleanse can help. There's a better way to live and healthier way to live. Experience healing. Visit us at dherbs.com. That's DHERBS.com. Or call us at 866-434-3727. That's 866-434-3727.
Okra Group Personal Chefs, proud sponsors of Let's Do Lunch with Chef Richard Petty. Okra Group Personal Chefs have been providing quality gourmet culinary services to distinctive homes since 2004. For a free evaluation of dietary needs, call 818-850-9584. That's 818-850-9584. We will design a custom menu that fits your needs. So call us today, Okra Group Personal Chefs. Let us personally make you a dish.
Hey, shout us out. What's the count? I'm your host, Ferran Dozier. I'm inviting you to join me on WDC Radio every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as we discuss community topics around health, sports, and entertainment. So don't forget to shout us out. What's the count? On WDC Radio, only on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live. and we're more than just talk. What's the count?
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and our guest is Kimberly Olson, who's the educator for Genesis Today. Very knowledgeable, a great asset for Genesis Today. And Kimberly, how can people contact you?
My blog is fitkim.com.
Fitkim.com.
Yes, sir. And I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And then on FitKim, it's just a place where I have videos to show people how easy it is to cook things, and I write articles just to kind of help people look at overall wellness, nutrition, fitness. And then I just published my first book last year, The FitKim Lifestyle.
FitKim Lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Good for you.
And I travel nationally, so on my blog it says where my events are, and that way if anyone ever was in the area, they could definitely come to one of my free lectures.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And so you lecture throughout the United States for Genesis Today.
Yes, I actually, Genesis Today sponsors the lectures, and then I get to put together my own FitKim topic. So it's perfect. It's so much fun. Yeah, so everybody that comes, they actually get to try out the Genesis Today products. They walk away with a little goodie bag, and then obviously great information, about an hour's worth. And I'll do different things, superfoods, gluten-free, looking at ways to get rid of sugar out of the diet, detoxification, you name it.
Well, that seems important. And once again, your website is fitkim.com.
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
We've been talking about we talked about noni, we talked about goji, which Genesis Today has, and what about mangosteen?
Mangosteen is actually really important this time of year, all the time obviously, but it's very important during cold and flu season. So you've been here in California, you've been pretty lucky, what I've heard.
We've been pretty lucky.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. But we all want to do what we can to protect ourselves. So mangosteen to me, it does three main things. It's going to boost the immune system. It's going to fight infection. So if there is something in your body, it's going to help reduce inflammation. Now, we all hear the word inflammation, and sometimes people don't realize, well, what does that mean? So we want to have healthy inflammatory responses. Sometimes, a lot of times actually, our bodies are inflamed when they shouldn't be. It's kind of like an overreaction. You know, our body thinks it needs to attack something when it really doesn't. But when you're on the attack all the time, it's very hard for your body to pay attention to things like metabolism, you know, and some of these basic things like digestion. So mangosteen is really going to help support healthy inflammation. Anything with joint health. You know, I'm a runner. I've been injury-free for years because I've been taking mangosteen. You know, I used to get injured all the time because, you know, runners, we just do too much.
Oh, yes. Running, nice sport, a lot of injury.
Yes, a lot of overuse. Yeah. And, you know, anyone who has any kind of joint arthritis, my mom has arthritis. She's very active, so I make her slam the mangosteen all the time. But even respiratory, you know, asthma, allergies, things like that, very common over. I live in Texas now, and it's very common there, and mangosteen can really help with that. So it's actually really easy to drink. Kids love it. It tastes like a watered down smoothie. Genesis Today, I don't know of any other company. What they do, Genesis Today actually hand scoops out the inner rind of the mangosteen and blends the whole thing together. The inner rind has the xanthones, and the xanthones are the active compound. So if you miss that part, then you're not going to get the benefits.
And again, it also tastes good.
Yes, it's the easiest of them all.
Okay, so, and it seems that all these superfoods, which actually is a fair term, and the world is very international, so we're using things that are used in Polynesia or in Tibet now, and we use them successfully. And while there's some overlap on all these superfoods, the mangosteen is specifically for inflammation?
That's a great point, too. There is some overlap. So what I do is if somebody kind of wants, you know, that general overall benefit, I actually recommend something called Power 4. It's all four, the acai we're going to talk about in a second, and then goji, noni, mangosteen. It's all four together, so you just do that one shot, go on your way. But if somebody had something specific, say some achy joints or some inflammation, or they felt like they were coming down with a cold, then they would turn to the mangosteen to really amp up the results.
And so while there's overlap, there's almost, I'll use the word specific protocol. So you feel that for the athlete with injury, the mangosteen is what you'd recommend?
Yes, yeah, before and after.
Oh, and how much mangosteen?
I do a shot, like a 1 ounce shot before my workouts and then after, and that's worked great for me.
And do you use we've talked about goji and noni and now mangosteen. Are these to be taken on an empty stomach, or are they taken with a breakfast meal? How is the most successful way to use them?
They can be on an empty stomach. If anyone has any, it depends on the person, but if they feel a little unsettled at all, they can do it with food. Always supplements. Usually we recommend that they're taken 45 minutes to an hour from the supplement. For example, noni can kind of intensify other things it's taken with. So if you took noni with goji, you might feel even happier. But if you took it,
good.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, good.
But if you took it with your medication, that might not be the goal. So there's one supplement Genesis actually just came out with. I think they launched it Friday, and I'll touch base on that before I leave today. But that's the only one that I've seen that there's a lot of research with your medication. So generally with these supplements, empty stomach, I like to do it first thing in the morning so I don't forget, and then later in the afternoon if I want a little boost.
We've talked about goji, we've talked about noni, mangosteen, and acai, if I pronounced it correctly.
Acai, there's different, as long as people know what it is.
Acai. What's the other pronunciation you like?
I say acai. A lot of times I'll hear out in the field, people will call it acai, because if you just look at the pronunciation of it. But in Brazil, that's where it's found, in the Amazon rainforest, in the flood basin. And what's interesting to me about acai, it's known as the beauty berry, but what I thought was so cool is during famines, they could live off of just acai and survive. Acai has everything. It's a complete protein. It has all the essential amino acids. How many berries have that, It has omega-3, 6, 9, but it has the rare omega-7, loaded with fiber, and it has a ton of B vitamins. And when people hear B vitamins, they think, oh, I take a multivitamin, it's in there. I don't think they realize that you have to get B vitamins from your food. B vitamins convert your food to fuel. So imagine you eat a meal. If you don't have the B vitamins you need, that food isn't going to be converted to fuel. So your energy, you're looking at digestion, and a lot of times it's more likely to be stored as fat. So B vitamins are really important. And acai is also known for its energy and endurance. And acai tastes like a black olive. So when they see acai, they think it's going to be sweet. It's more like a black olive. And when you see that beautiful color, that kind of purplish, blue, reddish color, think heart health, cardiovascular, blood pressure, all of that. Acai is great for that as well.
And also tastes very good, doesn't it? Acai?
Yeah, I think it tastes good. I like to drink them all together. I don't put noni with them because noni just needs to be by itself. I know. But the other ones I'll put together.
And on the acai, is that also 1 ounce, 2 ounce a day?
Yep. 1 to 2 ounces or as needed. Absolutely.
All right. Now, every one of the superfoods we've talked about has a specific kind of protocol, in your opinion. And so if I'm using acai, what's the protocol? What is it really good for?
Acai, the main thing would be hair, skin, and nails. So if I had a client who kind of looked pale, their skin was breaking out, eczema, or a lot of times what people will tell me, all of a sudden their hair starts falling out, they don't know what's going on, or their nails become very brittle, I turn to acai first. It's a staple for me. I usually, like I said, I like to do a program. So I feel like with supplements in nature, you got to kind of try some different things and see how the person will respond. But acai is part of that program no matter what.
Now, what about the form products? So if you are to, as a nutritionist, as a fitness teacher, if you recommend, say, noni, if people can use it in capsule or liquid, is the liquid really much better?
Yes. I always recommend liquid over a capsule. Now, there are some of the, like the green coffee bean, for example, that's in a capsule, you're going to get great results. But if you have the option with something like a superfruit juice or even a multivitamin, actually I do liquid as well on that. My friend is a chiropractor, and he said that when he looks at the x-rays, a lot of times he'll see whole capsules lodged in people's colons, because it's hard for our body to break down how compact some of those are. Any multivitamin is awesome, but if I had a choice, I'd always go over liquid. Same with the noni in a capsule. I've seen acai in a capsule. The concentration is going to be different in how your body absorbs it. Studies show that liquid can be absorbed as much as 90% better than a tablet or a capsule. And I notice it. I can feel it. It's kind of like juicing. You know how you just feel like it's in your cells so quickly? Right. 10 to 15 minutes. And I even was looking at acai capsules, and then there was some sea buckthorn was another one I was looking at, and there just was so much less of the milligrams of the superfruit that you were getting. So I think when people see that bottle, they think, oh great, but they really want to look at the milligrams. So 1 ounce of these juices we're talking about has 30,000 milligrams in 1 ounce of that superfruit. Wow. I mean, check out your tablets or capsules when you get a chance, and you'll see the difference.
Well, thank you very much for that. Yeah, thank you. I thought that liquid would probably be better than the capsules on this. Just more desirable. And in passing, you just mentioned sea buckthorn. Now, sea buckthorn is what makes the skin beautiful.
Yeah, it does. It's great for the skin. Whenever I do any kind of skincare training or any events for that, that's also on display for sure. It's known for the skincare, but what's amazing about it, it has the rare omega-7. It has omega-369, but it has 200 milligrams of omega-7 per 1 ounce, which is very high. It's hard to find omega-7. And the Genghis Khan, the warriors, and there was the history behind it is during the wars, the horses obviously would get wounded, and the soldiers would go, let's let them go off into the woods and die. We can't use them anymore. They would go and munch on the sea buckthorn berries and come back. Their coats would be shiny. Their wounds would be this white strip there where it had healed very quickly, completely ready to go. Yeah, so that's kind of the legend behind it. But think about that on your body. So what I like to tell people is sea buckthorn.
It's a great story.
It's kind of cool. It helps you remember, the tradition behind it. But what it does is it lubricates your body from the inside out. Our skin is telling us what's going on the inside. So even if somebody has gluten intolerances, over time, the small intestine, the villi, the interior part of their small intestine gets damaged, right? Sea buckthorn can go in there and kind of replenish and help their digestion. Or even topically, like eczema, things like that.
I'm so excited. I'm closing up my voice here. Just kind of like,
that happens
I love
to me
that
all the
story,
time. Really. Happens to me all the time. Don't worry, I should have brought you some. But yeah, you can apply it topically. So it's going to lubricate, if there's any part of the body that, is dry, any part of the body. So what's awesome is I actually ran into this lady up north at a health food store, and gorgeous woman, African American, probably about 60. She had gorgeous skin. It was glowing. I said, "What is your skincare regimen? I want to be a part of that." She goes, "Girl, I take your sea buckthorn." She'd been taking sea buckthorn, for years, and I swear to you, her skin glowed. So yeah, you were right on the money. It's great for the. Oh, and it also has up to 15 times the amount of vitamin C found in an orange. So it's also part of that super immunity. And if I ever feel a little run down, more I think, oh gosh, maybe something's coming on, because I, knock on wood, but I don't get sick.
Right.
But if I feel something's coming along, I start slamming sea buckthorn. I'll do like 4 ounces at a time until whatever it was is gone.
Wow.
So great for that too. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And sea buckthorn. So then we've done all the superfoods that Genesis Today has.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, by the way, so talking about Genesis Today, how can listeners contact Genesis Today?
Well, what's really cool, they just launched this feature last year. It used to be just in health food stores such as Vitamin Center. You can go there and get some Genesis Today.
Sure.
So any health food store most likely is going
and
to
Whole
carry
Foods carries it too?
Yep, Whole Foods does. All the Whole Foods have the Genesis Today line, and then most health food stores have some, the juices or some of the weight management lines. But just last year, they launched a feature where if you are not by a health food store, you can actually go on their website, and I believe most of their products are available with free shipping. So what a great way to go try them out, see how you like them. Yeah. So health food store, hop online at genesistoday.com.
Great. And once again, you're KimFit.com?
FitKim.
FitKim.com.
You got it.
And you've been, and what's the name of your book that you have out?
The FitKim Lifestyle.
And where can people buy FitKim Lifestyle?
On Amazon or on their Kindle. I have it digitally available on my blog as well. And just a way to show people how easy this is what I do. And then I put my 30 favorite recipes in there to get people started.
Oh, that's very nice. That's
yeah.
And what's that called again?
The FitKim Lifestyle.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what other products does Genesis Today have? Now, you seem to have a lot of products that really are kind of in your own category. I mean, like, is that why Genesis Today is the leading company? Because nobody else really has a line like this.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because they just launched a product, which I'll give you a little sneak peek on it. But it's a product that one of the ingredients in it has been on the market for a long time. But Genesis Today has come out with the most potent version of it on the market, completely natural, wild harvested. So when they do something and they do launch it, it's going to be the best on the market. And that's why I love the line. No matter what they come out with, I feel so confident representing it. And I'm excited. Anything they come out with, I can't wait till I get my hands on it and to be able to special order it, as being a part of Genesis and to try it myself. And I mean, everything that they have. So yeah, you're right. They are in their own category and they've built up a great reputation. People know Genesis Today. So, and they do. And I mean, being in the health industry, when you are a health food employee, it's what that health food employee says to that customer. And you talk to the health food employees and they're recommending Genesis Today.
Yes, I think so. I think when people walk into a natural food store, they're looking for information. And hopefully the information will be good. And then when the information turns out to be good, people are thrilled. And they go back. They say, we'd like that again. We want to try that goji or noni again because it worked for them. What else does Genesis Today have?
This last year, they actually launched a complete weight management line. So the goal was to offer something for everybody, because I know the majority of my clients, they do have other illnesses, but usually the motivation to come see me is weight loss. I mean, that's usually what gets them to go. I want to make a change. And so, of course, naturally, the other things, we attack those as well. But Genesis wanted to come out to help people with things like metabolism, body fat, their waistline, emotional eating. So they actually came out with a complete line of weight management products. So the green coffee bean, I would say, is probably the #1 seller out of the whole line. So that would be the other products that they have.
And on green coffee bean, we started the conversation with green coffee bean. What was the active, the product that was tested? What's the name of that product?
Svetol.
Svetol.
Mm-hmm.
Svetol is the name of a patented form that was tested.
Yes, it's green coffee bean, because sometimes people think it's another ingredient. It's actually green coffee bean. The only difference is the extraction process. So in the process, remember we were talking about there's 12 different chlorogenic acids?
Yes.
The Svetol version, they extracted more of chlorogenics 4, 5, and 6, which have been shown to have higher efficacy and absorption rates, and then they patented the process. So the main difference
Seems
is,
fair.
yes, so there's a standardized to contain 45% chlorogenic acid. That's what you're looking for. And so the traditional generic version or the Svetol, Genesis has both. The Svetol's a few dollars more depending on where you buy it at. It's more, again, that brand name. Really, I've seen pretty much the same results. It's more, what do you feel more comfortable with? Everybody's a little different. So either way, people will be good to go with it.
Now, since you have your master's degree.
Mm-hmm. I'm working on 2 PhDs right now. My master's degree is in holistic nutrition, but I thought, I'll probably be 85 getting more degrees, like, let's just face it. So
it's nice to study. Yeah, nice to study.
So I'm getting a dual PhD program of holistic health and natural health right now.
Good for you. Good
yeah,
for you.
I love it. Of course, I'm obsessed. I love it. It's so much fun.
Now, you mentioned that, clients are interested really in weight control and weight loss, but if a client is diabetic and you're able to have them lose 30 pounds, then the chances are good they probably will be less diabetic or not diabetic.
Yes,
right?
There is a big chance. Usually, the most common things I see is cholesterol first, where people will come in for a session. I do pretty much phone consulting now, but we get in the session started and they're like, my doctor said I can stop taking my cholesterol medicine. It's high five, virtual, of course.
Yeah.
But blood pressure would be another one. And then obviously it takes a little bit longer, but diabetes is another common one. It's so amazing to me that when we can get that nutrition in check, get their weight to where it needs to be, it's almost like these other things just fall away. It just blows my mind that food can be so healing.
Yes. For those of you just tuning in to Here's to Your Health today, we're speaking to Kimberly Olson, who's the educator for Genesis Today. Genesis Today, they're based where?
Austin, Texas.
They're in Austin, Texas. And Genesis Today is everywhere. Whole Foods carries them. Lassen's locally here in California. I mean, all the major chains carry them, and they really have some fantastic products. And so they're kind of in their own market category. Now, you mentioned that sea buckthorn is good for beauty. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's good for the skin, is it also good for injury? Let's say a person breaks their arm or tears a rotator cuff. Would sea buckthorn theoretically promote healing of that torn rotator cuff faster?
Absolutely, yes. Any kind of healing, rebuilding. What's so fascinating, if you read the research and the case studies, because I've read them, like hundreds of clinical trials and case studies, sea buckthorn literally rejuvenates at the cellular level. So imagine you had a toxic cell, say a free radical. Sea buckthorn is so powerful because it's so high as far as antioxidant rating, it can literally turn it into a healthy cell. So not only neutralize it, but literally change your whole what your cellular life looks like on the inside. So yeah, you are definitely right. Any kind of injury, oh, for sure, I would be drinking the sea buckthorn.
And now let's say people are listening to us and they're inclined to believe what we say on this broadcast. They think they don't really know what you know, but they think, oh, that young woman, that all information sounds good. But obviously, if something is good for the skin, like sea buckthorn, and promotes wound healing, people might think, wait a minute, this young woman said beautiful skin, and now you're talking about wound healing. And when people are thinking a medication, they're thinking this medication does X, but it doesn't do X, Y, and Z, it just does X. So why is it that nutrients, like a goji juice or an acai or a mangosteen, why can they do such a broad spectrum of things? What's the answer for that?
The answer is really break it down and think to yourself, if you're ill, are you deficient in Prozac? I mean, is your body deficient in Prozac? No, your body obviously is not deficient in
Right.
Prozac. But could your body be deficient in vitamin C? Absolutely. History has shown that. There's obviously different diagnoses depending on that. So with plants and nutrients, this is also why I don't like to take just vitamin C, just when they extract part of a carrot. I want the whole carrot.
Yes.
Is because we don't know what all of those hundreds and, thousands really of all the phytonutrients, all the
Right.
things going on
Right.
to make that fruit,
Right.
vegetable, plant, all the things we don't know nature like we think we do. We've just peeled the top layer off. So with it, sea buckthorn doing all those different things is because it's a plant, so it's synergistic, it's nature, it's going to heal your body and give it what it needs. We need plants, we need life in us. We don't need something dead or a chemical in us. We're not deficient of that. So usually the way medication's design is to alleviate a symptom, and that's why a lot of times when people have that symptom alleviated, something else will pop up. They'll go into and get diagnosed or prescribe something else. So it's kind of like putting out fires.
Right.
Or something like sea buckthorn is going to help your body function the way it should. For example, that client I had with the blood pressure medication, the green coffee bean isn't making their blood pressure go down. The green coffee bean is giving the body what it needs to naturally regulate its own blood pressure. And that's what's so great about it. It's giving our body what it needs. And that's Dr. Lindsay. If you get a chance to see him do a lecture, and he was on TEDx, and he talked about
really?
that. Yeah, he did a great job.
Oh my goodness, TED is, I don't know, as far as I know, it's the most influential speaking organization, if that's the correct word.
I think that's absolutely right.
In the United States, maybe worldwide, because after you see it on the internet. I mean, they've had some really fantastic thinkers on that TED series. I enjoy TED.
I do too, and it's very, very visual. It's right, it's all over the place, and you
Right.
see it. So he was on there as a
Wow.
guest. It was.
His name is Lindsay Duncan, and Lindsay Duncan is the founder of Genesis Today.
He is.
Yes.
Yep. He actually started his practice out here in Santa Monica.
Huh?
Yeah, and he talks a lot about how he with his company, he will do no harm to the body. He's just going to feed the body what it needs to function on its own. So learning about looking at it differently, because we've kind of gotten away from that over the last few decades, is just looking at, that's why I love the holistic side of it, is that it all works together. And something like sea buckthorn can give your body what it needs to heal and run the way that it should be running.
Wow, that's good. Kimberly, what else from Genesis Today would you like to tell us about?
Well, I would like to tell you my favorite slimming superfoods from Genesis Today, because obviously, we just finished January and people are still on that weight loss goal, the number one New Year's
in
resolution.
January, people, they've been partying from, let me see, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And so by January, they're kind of fed up with that, aren't
Yes,
they? They're a little
they're
fed up,
sick of
really.
it.
They're kind of really, they think we better shape up here. We feel awful, So I think that's why January, February, March are the big months for the wellness guys.
They are. And I see big jumps on my blog, and I'm sure you
Right.
do. But spring break's around the corner, summer.
That's
so
true, yes.
With a green coffee bean, my next favorite one I like to recommend is called Garcinia cambogia.
Garcinia cambogia.
Yeah, it's new. It's been out for a little bit, but it's actually not available in the United States. It's only available via supplement. It's found in Indonesia naturally. It's a citrus-shaped pumpkin. It looks like a pumpkin. It's part of the citrus family. The rind is actually what has the active compound. It's called hydroxycitric acid, and that's actually patented at Super Citramax. Genesis Today has one. It's standardized at 60%, but studies show it's been shown to be 3 times more effective than diet and exercise alone. So if someone is working out and eating better, I would say throw that in your arsenal. But what's amazing to me is not only does it inhibit your body from storing carbs, it kind of helps you metabolize them and get them out, but it also boosts serotonin levels, so that feel good. It's also, against a placebo group, the participants lost more inches around their waist and hips, which
with
is
Garcinia
huge.
cambogia.
Yep. And then also my favorite part is the participants, their LDL, triglyceride, and total cholesterol went down as much as 20%, and their HDL went up as much as 20%. And HDL, it's so hard to move that number.
It is.
Yeah. So it was just an 8-week study. And so Garcinia cambogia is awesome to add with the green coffee bean.
Now, Garcinia cambogia, that's been around for a while, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm. In the form of the hydroxycitric acid. You remember hydroxycut? Well, that was more like they had ephedrine and all that kind of stuff in it. But by itself, as standalone, it's the part of the rind that kind of the magic behind it. So Garcinia, Genesis Today, they also have chromium in it to help with blood sugar, and then also black pepper, which can almost double absorption. So it's standalone. No one else has that combination.
And in your opinion, when they add black pepper and they call it bioperine,
Yep.
in your opinion, that actually does increase the potency of a product?
Based on the research I've read on it, now it does, certain supplements, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. So there's a few that Dr. Lindsay has chosen to add it to. So the saffron they have as well is another one, because absorption is a really key component to get the benefits. So he wanted to make sure what can we do to make sure that happens, so you don't need it in everything.
Does Genesis Today actually have a saffron product?
Yeah, they actually have, and you're probably not surprised, they have the highest potency on the market. It's 400 milligrams per serving. It's wild harvested, and if you know saffron, it's so expensive as a spice. Each stigma, the little part of the flower, is hand picked. It takes like 200 flowers to make 1 gram. Yeah, just crazy. Imagine the labor behind it. But saffron is my favorite thing for clients who are emotional eaters. They love the sugar. I mean, sugar is highly addictive. It's it's physiologically been shown. So what studies show is snacking can be reduced by as much as 55%. But my favorite part is saffron has been shown to reduce sugar cravings by as much as 78%. Can you imagine? Sugar is your biggest obstacle. Wow. Yeah, it's so hard for people to follow a meal plan if they have that sugar addiction. So saffron's great for that. It actually outperformed depression medication in a study. So I was already a believer after I read that. Right. So, yeah. And
on the Genesis Today saffron, how is it used?
It's used as a supplement. So 2 capsules before meals, and always with
Is that right with the meal or half an hour before a meal?
Half an hour.
Half an hour before a meal, okay.
And because these are just whole foods, they do work synergistically together. They seem to really enhance the other. So if somebody is taking green coffee bean and they have the sugar situation, I will recommend that together, and I just see such a difference with results.
On the saffron, thank you. I frankly knew nothing about saffron, but I have read that some people consider it great for weight loss. Mm-hmm. Is it good for infection?
I don't know too much about that component of it, but that makes sense because I remember reading a lot, and they were doing more and more research as far as it fighting things like cancer, just to see how it would be with like tumors and things like that. And they're starting to already come out with a lot more and more research on it. I'm not 100% positive on it. I'd have to check. Do you know anything on it?
I do not know. I just, I think I've read a few articles, and I was just, unsure. And saffron, frankly, 2 years ago, I never even heard of saffron. I didn't know.
Right.
Like everyone, when companies experiment and bring something out, then that's actually most of the way I find out about it. I'm not a scientist. I just really am, I'm interested. That's all. I read little journals and things, and so I try to keep up with the current thinking. And I'm thrilled that Goji's on the market, and Noni and mangosteen and acai, these superfoods or superfruits that as a young man in the 70s, I was interested in nutrition, that no one knew about it. The most cutting edge person, it was never mentioned in Gary Null, who's a fantastic, important author. It was just never mentioned until, as far as I know, like the past 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
It's amazing how things have really improved. It's remarkable, the new things added to our arsenal.
And people are so open to it. When I was, in my early 20s learning about organic, everyone's like, you're so weird. You go to the health food store. I would drive 3 hours to go to a Whole Foods. Like, I loved it. I was like in there for hours.
Yeah, it's fun.
And
actually.
now everyone's, most of what I get is organic, and it's totally normal. People talk about it. People are open to it. I'm so happy that we're making this change.
And I think the reason that has occurred is, if an idea is merely fashionable, then a year or 2 or 3 or so later, it's discarded because it turned out to be only fashionable and didn't have any real legs, didn't have any real merit. But the idea of organic, of eating carefully, of not eating sugar, of using these superfoods, these ideas have merit. People have gotten benefit, and so they've become not exactly mainstream, but they're certainly approaching mainstream status. And that's only because, as I interpret it, the ideas have been good. The ideas work. And that's the reason. So for those of you just tuning in, you missed a very good show. Kimberly Olson today from Genesis Today has been our guest. And this is Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Radio Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Catch us next Tuesday for another important segment. Kimberly, thank you for being a guest today on Here's to Your Health.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we'll be back next week. And thank you for tuning in.
For more information about the guests and sponsors of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, please call us at 818-707-0005.